2000 BC, Mesopotamia. There was no swiping, except for livestock, except for land, except for political affiliations. Apparently, the parents of said people, that's how they would acquire a daughter-in-law, son-in-law. I just can't imagine now, like, I give you 6 cows for your daughter. Oh, she's not, okay, so 4 cows for the younger daughter. How do you label, or how do you place a value in livestock on a woman? They did it. 1800s, so 19th century, this became a thing where you'd leave a card at the woman's doorstep, and it was up to her. If she liked you, she would return the favor. She would offer you an invitation to the house for dinner or for some sort of get-together. The awkward phone calls as a teenager. You know, you're calling and it's ringing and your heart's pounding, and then like a mom answers the phone. This was back when it was all landlines. Right before pagers and cell phones came out. As a young teen, you'd wait for the girl to call you back. I'll call you back. Oh, and you just sit there staring at that phone. Welcome to Stay in the Gray podcast. We explore news that gets people talking by blending comedy and controversy.
Brutal banner, fearless word, shadow streets unheard.
I'm Ryan.
And I'm Trey. Together we dive into tough topics with a combination of humor and some insight.
So join us as we navigate the gray areas of the world and engaging in real conversation.
Come get to know us.
All right, let's talk about something fun. Something the other day came up, and I was thinking about the story of how my grandparents met. And it got me into thinking about dating. It got me to think about love, courtship, marriage, the goo-goo gaga feelings we all had at some point in our lives for different people. For me, it was only for my wife, in case she happens to be listening. She doesn't listen to the show much anyway. So let me tell you, I mean, it's really about, I just started thinking about how people met over time. You're talking about now, if someone says, well, I need to meet somebody. What do you do now in 2025? We'll get there. But it got me thinking about my grandparents, and I'll sum it up really fast. It's a very, very beautiful story. It involved my grandfather, his service in the military. He was an army colonel, and he was in France, in occupied France, during World War II. A lovely woman who had been dropped on the doorstep as a baby in France. Her and her friend were out in the streets, didn't speak a lick of English, and my grandfather and his army buddy thought they looked nice, if you will. And turns out they went out on a double date. They didn't speak the same language. They couldn't really communicate. And halfway through the date, my grandfather and his buddy decided they wanted to switch dates. I don't know how you tell the women that during the date and not being able to speak their language. But all I know is that my grandfather and my grandmother fell in love. They claim it was that night, whatever. Not speaking the same language. And that to me is wild. They ended up teaching each other how to speak the other language, and enough to be fluent. And of course, upon returning home with little to no communication with his family, here comes this French woman on his arm. And back then it was a big deal. Introducing to the family was a bigger deal. It was a big ordeal, if you will. And the rest is history. I mean, they were together for over 55 years, and here I am. So I just thought about that and how there was no technology. There was no way to meet what ended up being each other's soulmate other than just taking a shot, walking up and saying hi in English and hoping that they thought you looked appealing or had a good sense of a good vibe with you. They weren't creeped out right away. And so I started thinking, and so let's talk about it a little bit. What about the cultures that are like, they have to be set up by the parents? To me, that seems crazy, but to them, it's not. Let me tell you another little story. When I was in college, I helped students that were over here on programs that did not speak English as their first language. And I met with them once a week, and we spoke in English, and I taught them syntax and sentence structure and vocabulary, just anything that they needed help with. And by doing that, we would talk about each other's culture. And I learned a lot. And there was a man from Saudi Arabia, I think it was a Saudi Arabian gentleman. In you find this a lot with those Middle Eastern culture, with that culture. And they would talk about how it was all arranged. It was all the parents, they set it up. Love didn't matter, according to this man. And to me, growing up here, where that's all that matters, or it's supposed to be all that matters, it was, it just, and he's used to it. He's like, to us, what you do is weird and makes me shake my head. And I said, I get that, but man, don't you want to make sure that this is the person? I mean, you have to wake up and be with this person every day of your life. And we are capable of feeling love. But I backed up and I said, okay, fair enough. I respect that. And I don't know, we're so used to what we do, and they're so used to what we do, or what they do. So anyway, let's talk a little bit about it. So I couldn't resist this. So go ahead and swipe. Let's roll. A little about the history of love. These are some fun facts that I found fascinating. In 2000 BC, Mesopotamia, there was no swiping except for livestock, except for land, except for political affiliations. Apparently, the parents of said people, that's how they would acquire a daughter-in-law, a son-in-law. I just can't imagine now. Like, I give you 6 cows for your daughter. Oh, she's not okay. So 4 cows for the younger daughter. How do you label, or how do you place a value in livestock on a woman? They did it. The same thing with politics. So I'll switch from this to this politically if my son can marry your daughter. It's interesting. Land, I can see a little bit, maybe. All right, here we'll gift you this in order to become, combine the family land or whatever. But anyway, a long time ago. So let's move forward all the way to medieval Europe. And that was when marriages were still arranged, but you had to still, there was an interest in love. So people would apparently stand outside like the castles and the buildings and, recite poetry and sing and do all these serenading with everything possible. And the joke there is that, of course, it's a lot easier for the girl to like ghost a guy or vice versa if there's an actual fucking moat that goes around the castle. Put the drawbridge up. No, you aren't it. So stay away from my moat and my bridge. But, you just wonder. There's no communication except face to face back then. I feel like it would be refreshing. But at the same time, there would also be hardships as well. Let's move forward. Calling cards. I've heard about this a while back. And then I just kind of, you don't think about it again until you start talking about this subject. 1800s, so 19th century, this became a thing where you'd leave a card at a woman's doorstep, and it was up to her. If she liked you, she would return the favor. She would offer you an invitation to the house for dinner or for some sort of get-together. Cocktails, maybe? I don't know. It was like the slow version of swiping. It was like, okay, I like you. Here's a card. And okay, I'll get back to you. Okay, yeah, we did. We match. Okay, good. Now come over for dinner. Oftentimes families were there for the first and dates. Even after that, can you imagine trying to, work your magic with the dad, like just sitting next to you on the other side? Like, hey, girl, it's a great course that you have there. I don't know. I can't imagine having anybody in my immediate family sitting there as I tried to court anybody. Although my in-laws are pretty fun. They might have been good. I did see my in-laws not long after the first date I had with my wife. So maybe there's something to that. But God, you kind of want to work some magic to get that appeal going. And I don't know how I would have done in that situation. But it just got me thinking of the cards. So like, are you literally writing it on a card, or do you have your own logo on the card? I mean, is it like Ryan Layfield, with a cool dragon or something? Or, does that go into play? Is she like, this card's stupid? This guy, he must be stupid. This card is unoriginal, or this card lacks creativity. I want a creative man. I mean, you're already being analyzed by the card you're leaving on the doorstep. So thank goodness that system's not in play. Although I think I'd be good. I think I'd have a good card. And then let's go to the 20s, the 1920s, the roaring 20s, they say. Post-World War I, everybody was a little bit antsy. I don't blame them. Even though it was prohibition, maybe that made them antsier, and they went behind the scenes. But this is when dating outside the home finally hit. I can't believe it took till the 1900s. Come on. I'm sure there was some affairs, people sneaking away. I'm sure it wasn't actually confined to the home, but it was supposed to be. So think about dating outside the home. Jazz clubs, speakeasies. You see them all dancing. You see it on the TV shows. I always want, if I could pick a decade to go to, especially if it was the 20th century, it's the 20s. They were partying. The women, what were they called? Flappers. They started having their dresses a little bit higher. It just wasn't as uptight. You had people going to these bars, and they were always just had a cocktail in hand, top hats on for the guys, suits and piano players, and it was just looked like fun. Everybody thought smoking was good for you and cool. I don't know. I mean, there was just no... Now, granted, these people probably lived till they were about 45 or 50 years old, but they were partying. So credit to them. So fast forward, I fell into the age where technology was just kind of starting. It wasn't what it is now, obviously, but it was just kind of starting. I still was old school. The awkward phone calls as a teenager. You're calling and it's ringing and your heart's pounding, and then like a mom answers the phone. This was back when it was all landlines. Right before pagers and cell phones came out. As a young teen, you'd wait for the girl to call you back. I'll call you back. And you just sit there staring at that phone. It rang, and you just grab it. And if it wasn't her, you're like, "What do you want?" No matter who it was, get off my phone. And during the school days, that Dance is Friday. The last song of every dance was Stairway to Heaven by Led Zeppelin. And boy, that song's a long one. And you wanted that dance with your favorite young woman, if you will. And so you'd go up and you'd ask that some point of the week. You could do it with a note. You could put it in her little, where she keeps her books in her cubby. Put a little note there. Hey, how about the last dance on Friday? If she said yes, that week was a good week. And but then you had some controversy if another guy who she liked maybe a little more ended up asking, and she bailed. Never happened to me, of course. So that today wouldn't happen. It's phones and texting and social media and all that. There's no anticipation. There's no waking up in the morning and going, I got to go to school today. And at some point I have 6 hours to ask this girl for the last dance. Now you text her, you stare at the text and rewrite it, and use GPT to that'd be so funny. You put it in, ask this girl for the last dance, and then boom, there it is, and you just recite it. That's not genuine. I don't like that. I'm putting on a record. No chat GPT when you ask a girl out or when you ask for that final dance. Anybody if anybody knows that they still do dances and like the last song and all that, let me know, because I'd be curious. I need to find somebody that, I don't want to go try and talk to a young teenager. They might get the wrong idea. For me, after that, it was interaction. I grew up having interaction. I didn't grow up with the screens. So I was able to go to bars and go to places, and it helped that I played in a band and had a lot of people there to see me. But I'd walk up to somebody and say, hey, can I get you a drink? It was that simple. I mean, it was obvious what you're doing, but it was that simple. And if the girl or woman, for whatever reason, said, no, thank you, you're supposed to take that as, okay, she's either got a boyfriend, she's not interested, she's not attracted to you, whatever. And you just moved along. All right, have a good night. It was simple. I guess if you ask back then, I hate to admit it, but if you're at a bar, the chances are you want instant gratification. You're trying to get laid. And obviously what happens then is if you enter into a long-term relationship after that with this woman, that's always kind of a point of, you came home with me on the first night, you're dirty. You came home with me on the first night, you're dirty. So I know there are people that can get over that, but it's kind of like always lingering. Like, what would you have done if the guy next to me had asked you to buy you a drink first? So there are some pros and cons. I don't think it's the same as dating apps, which brings us to the next one. Before the apps, you had the personal ads. Even in like the newspaper, I remember you'd have like that section. And then I don't remember that. That was when I was a kid. I heard about it. And then the profiles. Then you got, you remember those videos they'd put on. Hi, I'm so-and-so. It's like just a blank screen behind you. Nothing. Just your face going, hey, I like this. I like that. I don't like this. I'm looking for a woman who does this. Blonde, brunette, redhead, I don't care. I'll take anything. And it was so cheesy, but they put them out. But then you had like eHarmony and Match.com, and you do a whole profile. I mean, it was almost like the MySpace, Facebook look to these profiles, and people could just look, and it made it easy. You could see everything about these people. Before that, wow, she's beautiful, but you didn't know anything about her. She could have been completely dumb or disagree with you on a lot of issues, or my mind goes to that now because I can't imagine how people. I'll get there, but then it came Tinder, Bumble, Grindr for my homosexual friends out there, in all of these apps, and there's tons of them now. But back then, Tinder was kind of one of the first ones, I believe. Before that, in middle school and in high school, it was like, okay, you let a girl know that you like her somehow, and then you kind of waited for the response, and then if she responded, it was a match. Well, this is just like high speed. You can go through 100 profiles in a night if you're in a big enough spot. And so it was fun. I mean, it was one of the things that I think it took me a little while to get off the app. I wasn't trying to meet anybody. I didn't communicate. It was just kind of fun to look and see what people would put as their quote or their 6 pictures or whatever. So here's a fun fact about Match.com. I don't know, a lot of people have heard this, but I hadn't before. And I was talking about it recently. But this guy, Gary Crimmon, who was the founder of Match.com, lost his girlfriend to someone she met on Match.com. The irony. But it said girlfriend, so he must have some money because otherwise she might have hung around to get this guy's half of this guy's wealth. So hopefully he found someone else. I just thought that was interesting. So yeah, that's it when it comes to the timeline. There are issues now surrounding dating that I just don't think have ever existed before. First off, Gen Z is claiming that they're bringing back love letters, handwritten love letters, meeting in person they want to start doing again. They're claiming that there's a focus here. I've just seen this a lot, and they're claiming that Gen Z wants to do it. It's like a thing and it's spreading. I don't buy it. I still feel like they're going to stalk somebody on social media. They're going to look at everything they can just to see what this person's doing and what they like to do, maybe history on Twitter, things like that. So that doesn't count. And second, I didn't even know Gen Z knew how to write. So kudos to you if you are actually learning how to formulate a complete sentence. The other thing that's come up recently is AI on these apps is starting to match people based on their appearance and their photos. And I don't know what technology they're using for this. How is AI going to judge, put you in like the way you look is going to be in a certain group over here. You are with them when it comes to your attractiveness. You are over here. You are over there. I just don't get it. I mean, is it people like different things? It's just, I just see that going poorly. I see people getting really offended. I see people sad because AI put them into a group that maybe they don't feel like they should be in. I'm just saying, let's be careful with this AI thing. So here's my quick list of pros and cons for the digital age of dating. I understand that getting to know somebody in the comfort of your own home or wherever, in your boxers or women in your robe and panty thingy, whatever, it's easy. You don't have to, women have your makeup on, guys can look like slobs, food on them while they're doing it. And you can still get to know somebody, whether you're chatting with them or whether you're just looking over the profiles. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, to a point. But what about the giddy feeling, the butterflies in your stomach when you meet somebody and have that connection? I don't believe you can have that exact connection over a computer screen. I just don't. There's something about the physical, even if it's just a light handhold or a hug goodnight even, or a quick kiss goodnight. There's something there that you can't get on a screen. I think that the big issue, and Trey and I used to talk about this quite a bit, is the misrepresentation. When you're online dating, people tend to think that you won't notice in person that they don't look a thing like they put, or that they put a picture from 10 years prior when they were 100 pounds lighter and had long hair instead of short hair and didn't have, who knows. But the misrepresentation is really bad because you're hooking people into meeting you and then it's not going to go well. I don't know anybody that would have this anticipation of meeting somebody they really like and then all of a sudden it's not even night, it's night and day, and having that person be okay with it, because it's a form of lying in my opinion. You know, some people say, well, makeup is lying or this is nose jobs. No, there's a difference. You know what you're doing when you put pictures up. And my advice, ladies and men, put more natural pictures up. Don't let it go beyond, say, 2 years prior to the date. Today's date, the day you're putting that picture up, 2 years, that's it. And that's even being generous. Take a selfie at that moment. Get yourself looking okay, but at least it's at that moment. I've just heard a lot of stories, maybe some from Trey, from people that have shown up and it's been like, whoa, this is just not cool. And it makes for an awkward evening. Lastly, well, I'm combining all of these. How about dick pictures and people that are inappropriate? That happens online. I suppose it could happen in person if you met somebody at the bar and they just, whipped it out. But the problem on the phones and these apps, when you start communicating on texts, things like that, is that these, mostly guys, because we're gross, send you a picture of their penis. And unless you've asked for that, or they know 100% that you want to see it, that's probably not a good tactic. And I don't think it goes well most of the times. I think a lot of guys think that they're just going to find that one girl that's like, oh man, look, there's a penis. I'm horny now. Come over. And I don't think it works that way. And I'm sure it has for somebody in the past, but I don't think it's a very high percentage. And then lastly, you know what? These women now, and I'm sure that there are dudes that do it too, but I've seen too many of these, like, you must make this much. You must look like this. You must be 6'3" or taller. You must be you're talking about a list of, you must be vaxxed. You must be all these things. And then I'm looking at this person going, who are you to make demands about anything? Go to the gym, take a walk. Why are you telling this guy that in order to be with you, he's got to have all these things? I guess that's fine. If you have that many expectations, good luck to you. I don't think it's going to work out. And if it does, I stand corrected. So that was that. Here's a big issue. I'm going to start wrapping it up. But I want you to think about this, because the other issue now, and people will say this issue actually has been falsely labeled a modern issue. And I agree. So when it comes to transgender, I agree. People say, oh, it's been many hundreds of years and people used to be like this. Okay. It hasn't been as in front of our face. It hasn't been as glamorized. It hasn't been as advertised. It hasn't been as discussed as it has in the last maybe 5 to 10 years. It just hasn't in my lifetime. So all of a sudden, it's more and more common to hear about somebody getting an operation, hormones, all of these things. And should you be required as a transgender person to be transparent immediately? I'll give you a few minutes to eat your breadsticks, and then you got to come out with this. That's my opinion. What do you think? I feel like this is a big enough issue that if somebody finds out down the road, it's over, because there's a big element of trust when it comes to that. That is a big deal to people, and they have every right to have that opinion and that it's a big deal. You can't tell somebody they have to be attracted to a person that used to be a different gender. You just can't. You can't do that. It'll always be in the back of somebody's mind if they have a problem with it. They also have an opportunity to say, you know what, I don't have a problem with it. Then you know 100% that this is somebody that you could be with. That's what I think. And there have been a lot of people that have said otherwise. And, once I become a woman, no more penis. That I am a woman and I shouldn't have to say anything about my past. And I don't agree with that. I'm sorry. I'll defend that on my end. Let me know what you think. And it's not because I have any transphobia or any of that bullshit. Don't come at me with that. Everybody needs to be happy. Great. I just am a big believer in transparency and telling the truth, especially with something like that. If you have a rare condition that would cause you issues down the road, I need to know that too, in case we go down that road and I'm unable to be okay with it. That's only fair. So that's just an interesting, it's just, you don't think about these things, and all of a sudden you go, wow, this is part of dating now. And that was what I wrote down. What should and shouldn't be disclosed? That's another topic, I think, for a different time, because I'm getting low on time here. I just feel like you could go down the list and say, okay, should you have to tell this on a first date? Should you have to tell this on a first date? And it might be an interesting conversation to have. So maybe I'll try that sometime. I want to talk more dating with somebody else rather than me just smiling at the camera. Hopefully a young woman that can offer a different perspective than the middle-aged man sitting here. So hopefully we'll have that, and that'll be a good question that perhaps we tackle at that point. And then, of course, politics. I'll tell you what, politics, I cannot imagine trying to date somebody with different politics. And that's so interesting, because back in the day, no one gave a shit. I didn't care. When I was 20 years old, I didn't care. I think it was the Bush Sr., then Clinton, and then George W. And no one, who cares? I would date a girl that liked Bill Clinton, even though he wasn't what I would choose for politics. Who cares? Now it's just like, and that's the other thing these people, both sides, both genders, both sexes, whatever, put on their profile. If you like Trump, don't swipe right. Or if you don't like Trump, don't swipe right. If you're a Biden person, you better swipe left. Get the fuck away. It's just crazy. But I also understand. We had her back on in season 1. She was one of the first episodes, I think, that's available to watch. Her name was Jess, and he and her husband are opposite sides politically, and somehow they make it work. She said they had great angry sex, and I complimented them both. Some people can do it, but man, it seems like it's getting more and more difficult as we move forward. So let me tell you, I'm going to end it on a light note. And what I mean by that is there are always these crazy stories about first dates, and they're so funny and they're fascinating. I've got 2 of them for you, and then I've got one of my own that's very quick. But I don't have a lot of these types from dates. They just didn't go crazy. There were some that just didn't go well, or some that went well and nobody called the other person. Some of that, but nothing that was really crazy. So let me tell you, this one was really funny. They're not long at all. We went to see Avengers: Infinity War, in case you want to know which Avengers, on the first and only date. Go right to the end. This is the only date. Everything was all right, and I was excited because I'm a big Marvel fan. Until the whole Spider-Man and Iron Man's arms scene. Now, I haven't seen it, So I don't know, but it sounds like Spider-Man was not doing well, maybe. I don't think they were lovers in this case, but I don't think Spider-Man's doing well. And she said she started crying because she's a fangirl and he's her favorite character. My date didn't know what to do. He thought something was wrong and that I wasn't okay or I wasn't enjoying the movie. He also had limited English, so it was hard to explain why I was crying. The rest of the date was super awkward as he didn't know what the hell was going on. Might have something to do with the language barrier. Although my grandparents, they would have been fine at this Marvel movie. Then he moved back to where he was originally from and we never went on another date. So, don't cry in Marvel movies, ladies. You know what? Don't cry in Marvel movies if you're on a date with somebody who doesn't speak English, because you need to be able to explain that shit. It seems pretty simple to me. The other one here is also pretty funny. I was on a great first date with a guy. We went to a bar during the day and ordered lunch and a beer each. After many hours of conversation, I thought, wow, this is so great. We walk outside and he had parked far away, so I offered to drive him to his car. He promptly gets in the car, lowers his pants, and starts jerking off. I screamed at him to get out, and that was the end of it. Guys, wait till you know she's okay with you pulling your cock out before you start jerking off, especially in public and especially in her vehicle. Man, it sounds like this was going really well until you pulled the penis out. Let's use your head, gentlemen. Most of these stories are about some idiot guy. I need a story about some idiot girl, although crying at that scene was pretty stupid. Anyway, my story is very quick. I went out with this girl, and she's just a different, and I was probably 28, my late 20s, and she was just a whole different ball game from what I was used to. She was from a very small town. She, here in Texas, she didn't care about sports. She didn't care about music. She didn't care about anything, really, maybe except for her line of work, which was fashion, and which ends up being kind of ironic because I wouldn't see her as a fashion girl. The whole night. You listen to me this far in only this show, you already know. But if you've listened to this show before, you know I can talk. You're not going to have any problem at the dinner table talking to me. But man, she made me work. Every question was a one word. Yeah? No, I didn't do that. Okay. Right. I agree. It was all of those. It was those responses. And I'm just like, okay. I mean, some of them were like, well, what did you do for college? Da-da-da. Would you like to tell me any more about your college life? I mean, it was unbelievable. At the end of the night, I was like, she hates me. Like, what did I do? Maybe the shirt isn't working. And we got to the car, for her to go home. And she just embraced me and like, give me a huge kiss. She's like, I really like you. I was so surprised. And I'm sitting there going, what? Because number one, I did not really like her. She didn't talk. Maybe it was first date jitters, but oh my God. So I was surprised. Turns out she texted me as soon as she got back home and she said, all I want in life is to live in a small town in a double wide trailer. And I'm worried that you don't want that. Oh man, I don't want that. I'm sorry, young lady. I did not want that. And I said straight up, I'm like, if that's what you really want and that's a deal breaker for you, I don't think this is going to work. So that's about the extent of it for my kind of weird date. It was just weird. She liked me even though there was it was just crazy. There's no chemistry. There's no nothing. She didn't want to talk to me, but then she really liked me. You know, I don't know. And she didn't want to stay. I mean, it wasn't like she just wanted to have a night. So anyway, that's my story. There it is. Dating in a nutshell. It's just a topic that's fun. And I wanted to, I had to talk about the airline crash and the helicopter. I had to talk about that because it just happened. And I really, really, if I'm telling you stories about humanity and things that we do, like love and romance and dating, I can't leave out something as big as that. It's a huge deal, and it's something that we all need to be aware of. So perhaps somebody listening didn't know the details, and they have them. And I think it took 10 to 15 minutes. So, but I hope you enjoyed something a little on the lighter side, dating. Hopefully, the people that are close in my age, to my age, maybe thought back a little bit about teenage years and reminisce a little bit about that. And man, I'm glad I'm married because I don't think I'd want to. I don't know. The AI thing is kind of freaking me out, and these robots, and I'm happy that I have found somebody. But good luck to all of you who haven't yet. You'll find it. And I'm going to keep trying to set my man Manny up. If you haven't seen Manny yet, he was a couple shows back, and one show in episode 313 he started on, and then this last one was 427. And he's such a good dude, and he's just looking for love. He wants a good mom to his future children, and so we'll keep trying to set him up. I like his idea of trying to be a love connection show. Maybe I'll have to entertain that idea. All right, guys, I'm going to end here with a quote. This is very simple. Every kick in the ass is one step forward in life. Seems pretty basic, something to remember. Love you guys. See you next time.
Find the colors, find the light. In the gray, we'll find our sight. Brutal man